Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 can be pretty challenging at first, especially if you didn't play the first game, so I'm going to go over some tips and tricks to master the combat, and also get pretty dang strong. Plus how to make money fast and some of the best weapons and armor you can get early. Everything to make you feel more confident playing this game. So alchemy, which you learn at the start of the game, and blacksmithing, which you learn early on from Takov, the blacksmith there, who you can come to during the story super early on, both can get you a lot of money through selling potions or selling weapons and leveling up those skills in the alchemy and craftsman tree to give you a lot of cool rewards like the 4th weapon tier that you only get from smithing. Picking a job like alchemy or smithing and just mastering that as fast as possible by doing that job is an easy way to make money, but by far the best way to make money early while also simultaneously leveling up is the archery tournament, which can be found southeast of Vidlak Pond and northwest of Takov. Now, archery can be really annoying when you're a low level at it. I mean, even when you're max level, it can still be sometimes a little difficult. But I'll teach you how to get through this super easy and make over 100 groschen every time. Which doesn't sound like that much, but it only takes like a minute or so to do. And you can repeat it over and over again. This also levels up your strength, vitality, marksmanship, and warfare, which all make combat a lot easier. Leveling up skills in this game make a significant difference in the difficulty. It goes from like at the start you feel like you're playing the hardest game ever made, to almost feeling overpowered when you're near max level at all of these different skills and stats. First, we need a crossbow, because they're a lot easier to use than a bow. If you purchased the deluxe edition, you should have one in your chest. You access your chest next to your bed, which you have in Takov after talking to the blacksmith. Or if you don't have the Artemis's crossbow in your chest from that deluxe edition, you can grab a crossbow from the huntsman's son Vitek, who holds that archery competition for only like 100 something gold. If you don't have enough money for that, I go over some more early money methods later on in the video, or go pick flowers and dry them at the drying rack and sell them, or make potions until you can buy the crossbow. So you want to talk to the huntsman's son Vitek when you're ready, ask him about the archery tournament, and then choose crossbows. At first, if you're a low level at archery or marksmanship, you might want to choose the beginner easiest difficulty just to get the hang of this. Plus there's less groschen on the line, you lose less money if you do lose. But if that is the case and you're scared of losing money, you should also create a save, like an exit save right before talking to him, which I'll get to the different methods of saving more easily in a minute. But the difficulty does matter on here, so for example, the middle second difficulty gets you 30 points for winning the tournament, while the hardest difficulty gives you 50 experience points for winning. So a significant difference, plus you also get XP for each shot that you make on the overall target. Each difficulty gives you more crossbow bolts. These bolts are free, by the way. You don't need money for these. But since the hardest difficulty has 15, you're earning more XP from each shot, but you're not completing it as quickly. And most of the XP comes from completing it. So I wouldn't worry too much about the difficulty at first, especially if you're having trouble with the crossbow. Just do the easiest one until you get the hang of it, then go up from there to the second one, and then master. On the hardest difficulty, you really just need all bullseyes. You can miss a few of them if you get like the outer ring that gives you 2 to 3 points, but you really need to hit bullseyes. To hit a bullseye, you want to aim just barely, like a hair below the overall target, right below the outer ring, to where you can see just a little bit of grass above your crossbow bolt. At first, as you're a low level, your crossbow is going to be wiggling all over the place. Take your time, take as much time as possible, don't rush, because this is not timed. The other guys around you are going to get through it a lot faster, but you get more sway on your crossbow the longer that you're looking down it. So you want to shoot immediately after looking through it, or just a split second after. So if you hold down the aim button, right click on mouse, or left trigger on controller, if like a half second passes and you're not locked into the bottom middle of the target, let go and stop aiming and let your stamina recuperate, because that's what really matters. As your stamina decreases, the sway gets more and more. So when I was a super low level, I would aim down. If I wasn't perfectly lined up and it started to sway, I just let go, let my stamina go all the way back up, and then aimed again. Once you aim in and you're actually in the center of the target, at the bottom center, try to make the shot. On the easiest difficulty, you can really just get away with hitting the target most of the time. You don't really have to hit too many bullseyes, if at all. The second difficulty, you're going to need at least a few, and then the hardest, you really need to be hitting like almost all bullseyes. As you're doing this, you're leveling up your archery, and therefore it's getting a lot more easier. Once you get marksmanship to around level 8 or 9ish, you notice a significant improvement on how easy it is to aim, and every level up from there makes it just a lot easier. If you make it to level 18, it's just insane because you can unlock the Eagle Eye perk that makes it slow motion for the first 3 seconds that you aim, and it just makes it super easy. At first, it might take you a couple of minutes on the hardest difficulty, but as you level up, you should be able to do it in just a minute. And oh yeah, just make sure you look to each side of you and see which target is yours, because sometimes it really throws you off. I thought the first time I ever did this archery tournament, I was on the left side, so I would just shoot at the left target. Suddenly it tosses me in the center, and I'm shooting at the left target, wondering why my score's not going up, and then I look to my left and see that I'm shooting at the wrong target. So make sure you look to your sides and see where these guys are at to see which target is yours. And like I said, next to each bed that you own, like the bed at the blacksmith, the one that he gives you in Takov after meeting him, or the one that you purchase at a tavern, will give you your stash box that is shared between each and every one of Henry's stashes. You can access the same loot inside of Takov's box as you can at Henry's stash at each tavern. They all have the same loot, it's all of your loot. A surprising amount of people don't seem to realize that. And yeah, this game makes a lot of things complicated, like saving. The game will save at certain mission checkpoints, almost always when the mission starts, ends, or when you complete an objective in a quest. You also save when you sleep, so if you have a bed nearby or there's a tavern, purchase a bed for a long period of time, and just save in it by sleeping whenever you're nearby. You can save and exit, which makes you reload from the main menu or kicks you to the desktop on PC. Still, this is your best friend. Even though they just overcomplicated it by making you exit, I exit save a lot. I exit save before talking to someone, when I know I'll have a major decision, or before a big battle that I might struggle with. Exit save no longer makes multiple saves, but it also doesn't get rid of the last exit save when you reload it. So now you can exit save whenever you need a checkpoint. It's the best thing to do early on until you at least stock up on savior schnapps. These are the potions you can make in order to save, but they're extremely limited, and you can either craft them at an alchemy workbench, or if you're lazy like me, just do the archery tournament for money and then purchase them from every single trader you see. And like I said, if you're near a tavern, you should purchase a bed for a longer period of time, not just one night. Purchasing it for a longer time is really a permanent purchase, so you can come back and use that bed whenever you want. Sleeping in a bed not only saves the game, but it's the best way to heal if you have some extra food and won't go hungry and don't mind skipping time. Every other method of healing is pretty rough in comparison. Marigold decoction is the second best and the very best if there's not a bed nearby. Again, you can either purchase that or make it at an alchemy bench. You can get the blueprint from that, and I think the savior schnapps from the herb woman that you meet in the beginning of the game. And I think traders also sell it. Food also heals you a bit, but it can't really be heavily relied on for health. It's more just for keeping you fed, and if I'm gonna sleep, a lot of the time the tavern has a pot over the fire. Just make sure it doesn't say steal, and instead just says eat, to where you're getting some free food. I always will overeat, to where you get that fat pig icon at the bottom of your screen, so that when I sleep, I wake up at like 100%. Food in this game is pretty dang easy to get though, at least in comparison to the first game where you didn't get a drying rack until like the DLC. In here, there are drying racks and smokehouses. Smoking food at the smokehouse that's marked with like the cotton icon makes it more nutritious, so it covers more of your hunger and fills you up more, and also makes the food last near a week. But the drying rack marked with this icon is by far my favorite because it makes your food last forever. You can dry meats, fruits, even herbs so that nothing goes bad. The only downside is that it makes these things less efficient, so like meats aren't as nutritious as smoking them, but they're still good and it lasts forever. So I dry most of my meat, and if there's a smoker nearby, I'll smoke maybe a few just for the extra nutrition. At the first big city you come to in the game here, just outside of it is a bee farm. This is where you can go in there and grab a ton of honey, and this stuff does not expire. It is really good to stock up on this every once in a while. The only downside is that it's kind of decently heavy, so I didn't even realize I was carrying like 30 pounds of honey because it weighs almost a pound each. Nearby this same location, there's also some sheep out in the field that you can chop up for some easy meat that you can take to the drying rack. Just don't let anyone see you if you're hunting the farm animals. Also near the drying rack over here in the other town are pigs that I usually chop up and then take them right to the drying rack nearby. Pigs and beef in general are really nutritious and fill your hunger up a lot. If the pigs or animals run away, it's usually just a short distance that they run, and if they're not wild animals, they usually won't even run from you until you hit them again. Skills and stats levels matter a lot in this game. You can level up your weapons and warfighter stats, which are what makes fighting a lot easier, plus you get extra perks with them by practice fighting with Tomcat, or if you played the first game, you're probably already aware of what I just went over, the hunting animals, not necessarily wild animals. Just make sure no one is around when you're at a settlement doing this. Probably save and quit to make a save beforehand, just in case, and then go ham on a herd of sheep or pigs. Cows work too, but they're tankier, and just run away. You get XP for hitting enemies and animals, but a lot more for getting the actual kill. Sheep will run away for a minute before they stop, and then you can get them again. Same with pigs. Cows are just gone. They run like the wind. They're surprisingly very fast. Chickens do not work for this, by the way. It's the same as the original, no XP on chickens.
You can't just kill animals that belong to someone. And a sheep, too. You'd be afraid to touch a ram, though, eh?
A lot of people seem to struggle with the combat, which is not at all surprising, especially if you didn't play the first game. A big fight I've seen a lot of people struggle with is Tomcat, who teaches you the Master Strike after you win, and he's probably one of the easier fights. So I'll teach you how to beat him and enemies in general easier. Grappling, for example, is really strong. To do this during a fight, you press the F key once you're near the enemy, or A on an Xbox controller, X on PlayStation. Once you begin grappling, you want to left click or press the attack button to win the grappling exchange, and press guard if it tells you to deflect. If you knock them down or pass the grappling exchange, you want to get a couple of hits in as fast as possible. This works for fist fighting and regular battles, and grappling actually has different directions. I don't think this was in the first game, or I just didn't realize. Grappling itself was, but now you can either face left, right, or down to do different grappling maneuvers, and you can unlock perks to buff it up even more to where you can aim to the left while you're grappling and then press attack again to put them in a chokehold and knock them out. That thing is really good, dude. The only real downside to this is that sometimes enemies will guard against your grapples, and some of the armored enemies just straight up won't let you grapple. I also like to hold heavy attacks and then feint by switching to the other side when I release the attack. Again, this works for fist fighting too. So I'll position my sword to the left, for example, hold down the attack button, which is a left click on PC, and then switch to down or up or to the right and release the attack. You release it right after you switch directions. A little trick that I like to do along with that is while backing away, for some reason it throws the enemy off if you just suddenly move forward and then release the attack, and it seems to really work best if you're aiming down. Aiming down performs a stab, so it uses a different damage stat than a regular swing. If you look at your weapon's stats, one of the damage icons on the left is a swing, the one right after that is a stab. Weapons have different stab and swing damages. So if you're aiming down, it does a stab, and that works extremely well. Like I said, if you're backing away and then just suddenly walk forward and stab. I'll also typically charge a heavy attack and wait until they change positions. Almost always when they change positions, they'll try to attack immediately after. So that's when I swing right before they do, and they have a hard time deflecting at that point. By the way, the purple bar at the bottom is the enemy's health. But if you're struggling, just be patient, man, especially early in the game where you're like a lower level on everything and enemies can just easily deflect all of your moves. It doesn't stay that difficult the entire game. It's just because you're super low leveled. Just wait until the green shield icon pops up to block, and then counter if you want, but be ready to block again if you do counter. But I have a lot more success just blocking and then waiting a second so that I can change swinging positions and then do a heavy attack somewhere else like a stab to the body. Just always be ready to parry or deflect when that green shield icon pops up to deflect their attack away. It seems like a lot of people have trouble with this, but like on PC for example, all you do is press right click as soon as the shield pops up and it blocks. It's super easy. If you're patient, fighting isn't that hard. Maybe at the beginning it can be because your weapons don't do that much damage against a lot of the enemies, but that's why it's super important to at least grab a better sword and a shield if you can, because a shield helps a ton for defense, especially if you're not very good. In the first game, I loved the longsword. That's probably the only weapon I really used. I dabbled in some other weapons, but I really just stuck to the longsword, and that was my plan for the second game. But the short sword is just amazing, dude, especially paired with a shield early on when you're just getting the hang of the combat. It's probably the best weapon type in the game, so get the Basilard as soon as possible from the blacksmith in Takov. This is probably the best short sword that you can get early in the game, and it stays really dang strong for a while. As soon as I grabbed this, I was two-hitting most enemies. Except for maybe armored ones, they still only take a couple of hits though. And oh yeah, once you do beat Tomcat and unlock the Master Strike, it's really not as complicated as it sounds. Like they say, you're just supposed to aim at the opposite direction of the enemy's weapon, so if their weapon is on the left side, yours should be on the right side, and then when that green shield icon pops up, you press the attack button, which is left click on PC. Obviously during a fight, it's not always that simple. They might switch positions real quick and attack. That's why you should also be ready to block. If you're not in a confident enough position to where you're going to use the attack button to master strike, just be ready to block instead. Oh yeah, to knock out enemies if you're just starting out, especially if you played the first game, you're probably like, why the heck is it not working? You have to crouch and sneak up on an enemy before it gives you the option down at the bottom right hand corner of the screen, which is F on keyboard, I think A on an Xbox controller, and when the blue crossed swords icon pops up after starting the knockout process, just press the attack button. Look out for that little icon in the center of the screen and press the attack button as soon as it pops up. And if the green shield icon pops up, press block. But when the shield comes up, you're just defending their attack because you lost the exchange, either from messing up the crossed swords or because they're just a much higher level than you are, where they just have a chance to overpower you. If you come over here to the main city, up towards the northwestern end of it, you might have to wait until nighttime. That's probably the best thing to do anyways, so there's not a bunch of guards lingering around. But there will be a guard leaning against the outpost here. You could knock him out, but pickpocketing him is pretty easy. All you really need is his keys. Once you grab his keys, hop on over just down the road from here, over towards like the main guard outpost, where if you come here during the day, you'll see them all just going in and out of here. But right now there should be nobody, so just open up the door. You'll find a crap ton of loot in here, including a crossbow and just unlimited armor. Like, you don't have to get all of this right now. You could grab whatever you need. You still have the keys. They're not going to change the locks, so you can just come back whenever you want. It's pretty insane. This is honestly kind of game breaking. But if you're struggling and you throw all of this armor on, you're going to notice a big improvement, at least in your defense. There's also a set of black knight armor that you can get over just southwest of Zelyov at a thief's camp in the woods. The only enemies here is the thief himself and a dog. Usually the dog isn't nearby the camp. If he is, just wait. But you want to wait time anyways until night, especially if you're early on in the game and aren't really leveled high enough to take this guy in an easy fight. Because if you wait until nighttime, he just sleeps buck naked in the woods, while his dog just lingers around. But loot him, take his armor, and take his keys that we can use on the chest that's nearby. But before you do that, there's like a golden goblet, I believe it's over on the right-hand side, and then a golden cross insignia that you can just barely see. I think 99% of people would miss this if they happen to even come across this camp, because the cross is hidden super well, and it's worth 1,000 groschen. Obviously, you're not going to get that much, especially if your speed isn't high enough, but you're still going to get at least a few hundred gold. Same with that gold goblet, I think you'll get a couple hundred for that easily too. If you come here early on, that just sets you up great. It gives you a nice little bump in money so that you can do those archery tournaments that we went over, which by the way, that guard outpost location that we just went over had a crossbow inside of the chest if you don't have a crossbow for that. If not, you now have the money to purchase one from the archery tournament guy.
Why the long face?
Oh, I've just got this nasty premonition.
What premonition?
I've got a barrel of ale at home. I'm afraid it'll go bad on me soon. Someone should really do something about that.
I'm in a right
Oh,
mind.
you pooch.
But what are friends for if not to help each other?
Great. It's a deal. Go ahead and tell Franz and Vashek, too. Take care, and God be with you. All right. See you later.